I think most animal conservationists or animal lovers, when they see a movie like this, they think to themselves, I would love to be inside the body and mindset of an animal, get to live out their ecosystem. And most average people would think that is super scary. They would never want to do that. I don't know where I fit because, on the one hand, I love animals and I'm always curious to see what they're saying, how they're communicating with one another, and how their ecosystem works. But at the same time, I think I would also be terrified as well because I don't want to get killed by any of them and be a prime target against the ecosystem that they inhabited. I mean, I guess I could say, thankfully, we're nowhere near that technological breakthrough, but it's a little scary to think of, but it'd be cool. Maybe.
Everybody here getting out of control.
Over here! Your life is in danger. You must do exactly as we say, Harry. LOL, I mean, Jerry. Drive now. Rocket ship.
Hoppers is directed by Daniel Chong with a screenplay by Jesse Andrews and a story by Daniel Chong and Jesse Andrews. The film stars Piper Curda, Bobby Moynihan, John Hamm, Kathy Najimy, and Dave Franco. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, a 19-year-old animal lover uses technology that places her consciousness into a robotic beaver to uncover mysteries within the animal world beyond her imagination. People were, at least some, disappointed by last year's Elio. I think most people can say, for as much as it wasn't a bad animated feature, it's just that amongst like Pixar's repertoire of animated movies that they have made, it's definitely not going to be like high on the list for a lot. And now there's controversy that has come out about it with regards to the development that that movie had went through, especially with the director and how he wanted to do it and feature a lot of queer themes. But Disney be Disney. Needless to say, Pixar has a bit of a tough time with regards to their original properties. The last time they actually had a hit on their hands was with Coco. While I enjoyed Elemental, I won't sit here and deny that it wasn't a perfect film by any means, and some would say it's an enjoyable one, but not of Pixar quality, and Lightyear be Lightyear. But then Pixar then teased their latest project with a post-credits scene teaser at the end of Elio with this film that got people curious because the marketing for this was interesting because I think this is the first time Pixar has ever done where they tease their next movie at the end of one of their own. I don't think they've ever done that. I think most of the times they're usually just post-credit scenes, little gags here and there, but never really like a full-blown teaser to their next project, like Marvel style. And well, I guess having a lizard just tap on a phone saying lizard, lizard was enough because boy, that got a lot of people really interested in what this next project was. But it also seems that Disney decided to finally market one of Pixar's newest original films that isn't part of like a franchise because God forbid Disney, if they had marketed one of their franchises, they're good. All right, like Inside Out 2, Toy Story 5, like they're fine. They'll be all right. But anything that is original of theirs, you might as well just say like what marketing, because a lot of the times they hardly market any of their original IPs, and to me that's a damn shame. For as much as you can talk about the quality of their movies, it's really apparent that Disney themselves are also not confident in even one of their own movies. That must hit really hard for Pixar since they need it so that way they can still fund the movies that they make. But okay, sure, screw them over. Why not? With an interesting premise and stunning animation, maybe Hoppers can be seen as another standout for the animation studio. Because I know people can say Pixar has fallen off in hard times, and we can have a difference of opinion on that, but you cannot deny if there's one thing Pixar can at least do is give you something that could be interesting, but also animation style. I mean, come on. They just always top themselves with each animated movie. Like any animated movie, they always just seem to top themselves with regards to how the movie should look and the detailing of it. Upon watching this said film, this is definitely one of modern Pixar's best films to date. Like in their catalog, this is definitely like gonna be up there for me with like Turning Red, because this film just understands itself and is so riveting to watch that I was just really interested with where things were going. Like seriously, I didn't know how this movie would play itself, and most of the time I was just glued to the screen, just like, where is this going? Where are we going on this adventure? Because I found this movie to be so fantastic to watch, especially if you bring a family along, they will get a kick out of it. And with no negatives, you guys, there was nothing I could find in this movie that I didn't like. I found this movie to just be terrific in every way. Here are now all the positives. The voice acting is terrific. Everyone brings so much energy, humor, and heart that comes with Pixar's films, leaving this having all the emotions feel effective. Piper Curda as Mabel Tanaka, I think she is determined, feisty, and somebody who is really wanting to save the habitat that she grew up with her grandmother when she was a kid, and she wants to do whatever it takes to save that area and to just show people how much animals mean to our ecosystem and the way in which we live in it. And I think she is really funny, but also somebody who is very determined in getting what she wants, and she will go to great lengths to do it. And I think she was just a fun character to follow and just understand in the film where she's coming from and how why this means so much to her and the importance of what it means to have animals in our lives. I also got a kick out of Bobby Moynihan as King George. I thought for what this character, he would have just been kind of the comic relief. And while he has definitely got the comedic side to him, I think King George is just a fun character and not one that's dumb. I think he is generally a king that is actually really respectable and somebody who is actually responsible, one that actually understands the role and position that they fit in this world. And I really thought that Bobby Moynihan really fit the mold of what King George had to be for this film. And I really love the dynamic with him and Piper Curda just works well for it. I also really like John Hamm. I didn't think a character like this, who, of course, is shown as to be the villain, but I never thought I would actually like a character that, even if he's villain, I thought you would just think, all right, he's kind of annoying, or all right, he's overdoing it. No, this character's actually kind of funny and actually kind of nice. I know that's kind of outrageous for me to say, especially with how this movie kind of paints him out to be, but like, if you really think about it, listen to what he's saying, I understand what he does, like why he's building this highway that would go through the habitat. As much as we like to think what Mabel's doing is right, and it is, you also got to think of what he is also dealing with as a mayor for re-election, as well as the fact that he could have had this girl arrested multiple times, especially in one segment where she shows up to his house at night. And he could have called the cops. He could have sent her to prison. He didn't. I think for as much as this movie paints him out to be bad, he's actually kind of nice, to put it bluntly. Seriously, he could have done much worse if he was actually given the full chance to go full on villain. But speaking of full on villain, Dave Franco. Talk about a villain who you think is kind of a wuss because of the fact that he's a butterfly. Man, this creature goes to great lengths to really go at the humans. And Dave Franco just ramps it up, man. And you know what? For as much as it seems like it's over the top, I love it. I think he fits it, and it just really goes to show how much that like Dave Franco can be a really funny guy and really just hit a role very well. The direction is flawless. Director Daniel Chun brings the natural world in a creative but interesting way, allowing nature to be fully realized. From what I understand, Daniel Chun had actually thought of this concept while watching a documentary, and I think that's the best way to describe what this movie kind of feels like. It does feel like a documentary in a way, just by how the film kind of goes about showcasing the animals and how they build stuff in an animated way, but it's able to be as vibrant but also as lively as it is. And I think Daniel Chun was dead set on making sure that the animals were the important factor of this movie, how important it is for them to be in our ecosystem, how we need to rely on them for the natural world to balance our chaos and at times power hungry parts to ourselves. But he just understands how this movie had to be for kids to understand why nature is so important, why animals are important to our environment and why it's really important to make sure that habitats, for as much as we'll try to take away the importance of nature, at the same time, I do think we need to fight for something that is really substantial and actually one that is detrimental to our planet, because stuff like this, for as much as there is some argument to be made about why this highway system is important, at the same time, you do realize that animals are the things that are keeping the world at balance and keeping things under wraps, because otherwise either we piss them off, they get angry at us, or when what we do is wrong and is about to destroy us, animals are there to kind of help balance it out and help keep the planet safe. I think it is just the idea of not just the planet in the way in which humans and animals need to coexist, but also just the idea of really what separates us from each other is communication, but just knowing the understanding and the ecological world of what we live in. The animation is beautiful. From the animals, environments, and people, there's so much detailing that makes it stunning. As always, Pixar always tops themselves with every movie in terms of animation. If there is something you cannot deny with Pixar with regards to how they make their movies, their animation just is always on point, man. They are always looking for the tiniest of crumb and tiniest corner of a frame for a movie and making sure it looks beautiful. And they always have done that. The movie is stunning, it is vibrant, gorgeous. The way in which the animals, the fur on them, and also even at times with like Mabel when she gets angry, her hair just stands up, and also the little like detailing on like certain characters, like with the butterflies on their wings. It's crazy how much Pixar just always keeps on nailing how characters should look and how vibrant and emotion that they can bring to them, especially when they're switching from like when humans see them, they just see them as normal animals. But when they have like an earpiece in or they're like one of the robotic creatures, they become like animated characters with emotions. And I think that's a great way of differentiating the idea of like when humans can understand the animals, or when they're in the body of animals and understanding one another, or when they're just normal human beings and just hearing them without any sort of guidance. They are just only seeing animals just acting. The story is engaging, following this 19-year-old girl's consciousness into a robotic beaver while trying to protect a natural habitat was investing and well thought out to be excellent, making this be another standout for Pixar. Among some of Pixar's like stories, because I know people always pick the classics, for modern Pixar, I truly think that this is easily one of their best, because the idea of this girl wanting to protect the environment, just like how I was talking about it when talking about the direction here. I think there is an important message that kids can take away with this about our ecosystem and the importance of it, but also for parents to understand that if you swap this with like other human beings, this movie could also work, because it's also a way of just understanding each other. We may have our differences, may have our problems, but I feel like we should always set things aside and just come to an understanding and help one another when there's a bigger threat larger than our little skirmishes. I think this is something that is so important, even relevant to today, that even though you could say kids aren't gonna 100% get first viewing, I think as they grow up and watch it, they come to understand that. And I think that is really the best thing that Pixar can do in this period of time where everyone's so divided and everything is just in chaos. I like how a movie like this can make us kind of look back on just not only just nature, but just understanding of each other. The writing is amazing. Writer Jesse Andrews crafts a script that blends the heart and humor together to make nature feel lived in, giving the cast solid work to bounce off one another. Writing this movie just works, and it feels like classic Pixar, but also kind of revamped Pixar at the very least. And Andrews was able to deliver on that with really great humor, banter between each characters and conversations, and the underlying tone of this movie. Besides the nature preserve aspect of this movie, I think it works well when it's having this discussion about it, but also becoming much more. It's smartly written, well thought out, especially when they go into the discussion about rules of the pond. I think that was really clever. I thought that was interesting and a great take on like the ecosystem trope of how like it all works, how the circle of life works in their habitat. The music is exceptional. Composer Mark Mothersbaugh makes a score that's both electronic and weird sounding, but perfectly fits the vibe and tone together, feeling just as unique as the concept. How this score is not traditional, but yet it just works for this movie because of how bizarre it is. And it fits with how unique and different it is compared to other Pixar movies that it just stands out. And it may not be the most memorable, but I think is just really interesting to hear, but also fits with how this movie is to begin with. The pacing and runtime is excellent. Scenes feel well planned and well put together. With a runtime of 1 hour and 44 minutes, that's a good length. People, I just got through watching The Bride, and I said to myself in that review, why does this need to be over 2 hours? This movie, have no complaints. This fits so perfectly with how Pixar knows how to pace and max out its runtime in a great way that it doesn't make you feel like you're checking your watch or kind of rolling your eyes. This felt like it needed to say what it needed to do and just know when to end. It didn't need to go much longer than that. It just knew the right amount and it was just perfect for that. The cinematography is stellar. Cinematographers Jeremy Lasky and Ian McBean captures a gorgeous and lively depiction of the nature world. Also, showcasing the transformation of people going into animals was exciting when it happened. There is some cool sequences where you'll sometimes track animals and how they move and operate. And like I said, it sometimes looks like a nature documentary at times. How cameras are positioned from far away, or when characters are here in front of you, is like the animal walking by. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, the transformation to how Mabel or other characters go inside the bodies of these creatures that are robotic. I thought that was really cool to see, and it just really feels like this idea of the consciousness just being plucked out and just being warped into another body that quickly. It's pretty amazing. But everything else about this movie looks incredible on how it's all framed and shot. The editing is fluent. Each cut and transition feels precise and on point when it happens, making this all connected throughout. How this movie is planned in the way of how cuts are positioned and transitions, great. Excellent. That's what I would hope Pixar to kind of retain the feeling of like understanding its concept, motivation, and how it is executed. Here, the way in which this movie flows and just goes from scene to scene, how it cuts and frames itself, it's really excellent to see, and it is just a classic example of how editing should feel for an animated movie that really feels just right for itself. The production is effective. Seeing all the hard work for this film shows the dedication to bringing this concept to life, whether it be like the animators, but also like just sound design of this movie. It's just being inspirational for a younger generation. I always say that Pixar is a great example on how animators, especially kids growing up who want to be animators, see a movie like this and think to themselves, I want to do this. Like, this is why I love animation, is because of stuff like this, because of how much that dedication and going into like nature preserves that they were looking up for like beavers and studying them and their movement techniques. I mean, like, that is some real dedication and real craftsmanship to what animation can do for storytelling, but making it feel authentic in a way where it is still an animated movie, but it is one that has so much heart, so much love and passion for the natural world, and understanding why it's so important for this world to really come together and just protect it from extinction and demolishing it and tearing it down. As much as people want to still say Pixar isn't what they once were, this film shows that they still got it. I understand that people will think to themselves, well, this was a fluke, or, yeah, this was, great to amazing, but I mean, it's not as good as, like, Toy Story. Look, people my age will always just revere movies like that, but I mean, come on, guys. Like, you gotta admit, this movie really hits, especially for now in modern Pixar. I think this one and like Turning Red just really hit their stride. From its animation, voice acting, story, writing, etc., Pixar delivers everything for the family, making this an excellent watch. I'm serious. If you get a chance to see this with your family, please do. I think kids would get a laugh out of it. Love watching it, especially seeing all the creatures and animals. I know that Disney's going to make a lot of money off of plushies or stuffed toys off of these animals, especially the beavers. I know they will, but all in all, I think it's a good movie for kids to watch and to hopefully not only learn a good lesson about protecting the natural world, but for them to grow up and realize like there's more to it than that. And it's about understanding one another from a different perspective. And for us to learn to get along in a world where it is all chaotic and crazy, I think we all need to put aside our differences and come together and love one another. I'm going to give Hoppers a 10 out of 10. This movie is fantastic. It is incredible. If you really get a chance to see it, please do. It's definitely worth time. If you really want to watch a really excellent Pixar movie, this one's for you. I truly think so. And if you're an animal lover, you're going to love this movie. Like, instantly. Definitely worth seeing in theaters. You won't regret it. So I will be soon doing a review for Project Hail Mary. So yes, look forward to that review and other reviews coming soon.